decrees. His Majesty the Sultan greets the U.S. President on his country's Independence Day anniversary. And at least 8 Palestinians are killed by Israeli drone strikes in the city of Jenin at West Bank. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq issued 2 royal decrees. Royal Decree number 44 over 2023 on establishing Khazain Economic City and issuing its bylaw. Article 1, an economic city called Khazain Economic City shall be established in the Governorate of Southern Bulletin on the specified land according to the attached scheme. It shall be under the supervision of the Public Authority for Special Economic Zones and Free Zones. The attached bylaw shall apply to it. Article 2. 2 free zones shall be established in Khazain Economic City on specified land according to the attached scheme and according to the development agreement mentioned in the attached bylaw. Article 3 endorses the development agreement and usufruct agreement for Khazain Economic City mentioned in the attached bylaw. Article 4. Oman Logistic LLC shall be the operating authority for Khazain Economic City and the 2 free zones established in it. Khazain Economic City LLC shall be the developing authority for Khazain Economic City and the 2 free zones established in it. Article 5. The Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Public Authority of the Special Economic Zones and Free Zones shall issue the regulations and decisions necessary to implement the provisions of the attached bylaw. Article 6. This decree shall be published in the Official Gazette and shall come into force from the next day of its issuance. Royal Decree number 45, 2023 on approving the accession of the Sultanate of Oman to the Convention on Privileges and Immunities of the Specialized Agencies. Article the accession of the Sultanate of Oman to the Convention on Privileges and Immunities of the Specialized Agencies is hereby approved in the form attached, subject to the reservation on Section 32 of Article 9 of the Convention. Article 2. The competent authorities shall deposit the instruments of the accession for the aforementioned convention, subject to the reservation mentioned herein. Article 3. This decree shall be published in the Official Gazette and shall come into force from the date of its issuance. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq sends a cabal of greetings to His Excellency President Joe Biden of the United States of America on the occasion of his country's Independence Day anniversary. The Palestinian Health Ministry said at least 8 people were killed and around 50 others injured when the Israeli army launched drone strikes in the occupied West Bank area of Jenin today. The operation comes 2 weeks after an Israeli army raid in Jenin refugee camp left at least 8 people dead and saw rare use of helicopter missiles fire. The director of the Palestinian Red Crescent in Jenin told reporters that there is bombing from the air and an invasion from the ground, adding that several houses and sites have been bombed. Ukraine today reported making gains in the south and east over the past week in difficult fighting to dislodge Moscow's heavily entrenched forces in Crimea. The Russian Security Forces FSB said today it had foiled an attempt on the life of the Moscow-installed head of Crimea, Sergei Askunov. Moscow annexed Crimea from Ukraine after a referendum widely regarded as a charm by Kiev and Western countries. Heavy downpours have triggered flash floods and landslides in mountainous areas of Anhui and Chongqing in east and southwest China, and affected residents have been evacuated in emergency. Shengxian's county of Anhui province activated an emergency response to flooding after torrential rains from Friday night to Saturday morning swelled rivers and caused mud flows in some remote towns. Local workers were clearing up and repairing the damaged roads and bridges. Yet to come in our news bulletin. European mechanical engineering students invent a robotic fish to collect underwater DNA samples for marine research. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The Central Bank of Oman has issued the first ever composite financial stability index for the Sultanate of Oman, aiming to measure the financial stability at the local level. The index will provide insights and valuable information to stakeholders, policymakers, and decision makers related to the current conditions of the stability and development of the financial system. The composite financial stability index consists of 5 sub-indicators that reflect a true picture of the financial stability seen in the Sultanate of Oman, namely banking stability, system risks, debt sustainability, currency stability, and capital markets. Royal Oman Police celebrated today the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking at Traffic Safety Institute in the Wilaya of Nizwa in Ad-Dakhiliya Governorate. The event was presided over by His Excellency Dr. Wael bin Saif Al-Harrasi, Under Secretary of the Ministry of Endowments and Religious Affairs. More details in this report.
In celebration of the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, or World Drug Day, which is observed on 26th June every year, Royal Oman Police, represented by the Police Command of Ad-Dakhiliya Governorate, held a ceremony at the Traffic Safety Institute in the Wilaya of Nizwa to strengthen action and cooperation in achieving a community free of drugs.
We are very happy to gather here today in the International World Drug Day. We want to show the effort of all the private and the government sector, that their entity to help and combat the drugs abuse and the illicit drug trafficking. Raising awareness is a very important thing in all the government and the private sector, such as schools and universities, also dealing with all the, using all the media and the social media in presenting the awareness in the good way, continuously as well.
The event included a dialogue session in which the working papers focused on defining drug abuse as an epidemic, the Halfway Home Center initiative at Al-Masara Hospital, the psychological and social causes and effects of drug addiction among juveniles, as well as the awareness-raising efforts to reduce the spread of drugs.
We're trying to find new life for the drug addicts and teach them how to be useful people in the community. After finish the detoxification in the hospital, they have to come to the rehabilitation centers. The programs not less than 7 months, and maybe it's get more. And there is 3 phases, the phase 1 and the phase 2 and the 3rd phase. And after that, there will be the aftercare, after they graduate from the center.
The accompanying exhibition showcased joint efforts, initiatives, and projects carried out to combat drug use disorders, as well as available treatments and the importance of early intervention and support.
Here we have 2 inventions. The first one is a glass which attack the drug addicts, and it's follow the temperature, oxygen, and blood pressure. we can see how the addicts follow and by the doctor. This is our invention, and it is the first robot in the Middle East, and it is local invention with the local industry, and it helps us to give us awareness of drugs abuse.
It is worth mentioning that World Drug Day this year came under the theme People First, Stop Stigma and Discrimination, Strengthen Prevention. World Drug Day is an opportunity to enhance community solidarity so that people suffering from drug disorders are given a pathway to recovery, rehabilitation, and ultimately sustainable livelihood. صالح بخلفان الرحبي، ولاية في نزوة الداخلية، Governorate.
The Minister of Commerce, Industry and Investments Promotion urged industrial establishments to quickly submit their data for the year 2020, 2021 and 2022 before the end of the date set for the industrial survey at the end of this month. Periodic industrial survey this year targets 969 industrial establishments to provide an updated, comprehensive and accurate database on industrial establishments in the Sultanate of Oman. The survey aimed to find advanced indicators to monitor and measure the performance of the industrial sector in a way that enhances transparency in the industrial sector and contributes to identifying investment opportunities and raising the percentage of local content of the industrial sector in order to use survey data in developing plans, policies and development programs. The financial evaluation phase for the students' companies qualified in Injaz Oman competition started today. Competition seeks to provide students with the necessary skills to transform their ideas into innovative project support and qualify them to establish their own companies and motivate them to enter the labor market. And now all the way to Zurich, mechanical engineering students at ATH Zurich innovated an autonomous robot fish designed to collect underwater DNA samples for the marine research. More details in this report.
Underwater DNA samples for marine research, and it does so without making any sound.
So it has to be silent, it has to also appear like a fish, it has to move like a fish.
The robot can film underwater and collect samples that provide a picture of which organisms live in a given environment. The robot is designed by mechanical engineering students at ETH Zurich. Leon Guggenheim is one of them.
So our idea was to create a platform that actually fits into the ecosystem and that gets accepted as part of it. That's why we then developed a fish that behaves like a fish and is also accepted by other marine creatures as a fish.
The 3-foot-long robot uses AI to autonomously navigate its location while taking isolated eDNA samples and high-resolution video. It propels itself using a silicone fin with 2 cavities pumping water in cycles. Its soft tail rises and falls while creating no turbulence in the water to blend in with other fish among underwater environments. Assistant Professor of Robotics Robert Katchman.
If you look at the way that we're currently going into the oceans, that those are large, either unmanned underwater vehicles, but they are definitely very disturbing, and they're certainly not made to go into these more delicate environments where we would love to get the eDNA from. So that's not our goal, right? We want to really go in there and be as silent as like a spy, just literally going in and being a spy on the marine life.
The team hope their robots will help marine biologists study the health and biodiversity of various reef ecosystems that have been impacted by overfishing, pollution, and climate change.
It's a good walk there, and let's hope that giant fish will not attack it. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty the Sultan issues 2 royal decrees. His Majesty the Sultan greets His Excellency the US President on his country's Independence Day anniversary. And at least 8 Palestinians are killed by Israeli drone strikes in the city of Jenin at West Bank. And with that, we do conclude this news bulletin brought to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman Television, headed by Studio Director Salim Al-Bultani and Editor English News Ryan Al-Jordani, and our engineer today, Yahya Al-Musallami. From me, Abdullah bin Ahmed Al-Rubi'i, together with the entire news team, we thank you for joining us, wish you a pleasant evening, and of course, good night.